Welcome, welcome. It is Rebecca Schessler Marshall here with Vibrant, Wild, and Free, and Erin Sheriff. We're starting episode 6 about taking chances to live your most vibrant life. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you, Rebecca. So happy to be here.
So happy to be here too. Another wonderful topic to talk about today. I love this one. This is so fun because at the very beginning, I was saying, I don't know if I take chances, Erin. And Erin reminded me, yes, you do take chances. So it's one where the mind can tell us that one thing is happening, but actually every moment is taking a chance. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about what you think. How would you define taking chances? How would you describe that for people who are like, I don't know if I take chances?
Well, I might define it a little differently. I realized when you and I were talking about this, Rebecca, and we're taking chances every moment, I believe. And to me, every yes is a no, and every no is a yes. So let's just say you're doing the same thing you've always done, and you think, well, I don't take any chances, but you kind of are. You're taking a chance because you're saying no to all these other things, and that's creating a certain life. So for every decision you make, let's say it's staying in a job and that feels safe to you, but now you're saying no to all these other things. So that's a chance that maybe you're living a smaller life than you would have. I don't know if this is making sense, but I just heard that sentence once years ago, and it made so much sense to me that every no is a yes and every yes is a no. So there's all these infinite possibilities of the way your life could go down, of things you could do, people you could be with, jobs you could have. And if you're just saying yes to this one thing, you're saying no to all those other things. And so sometimes I think just cracking that door open a little tiny bit and seeing what might want to happen,
Yeah.
that's a chance, even though it might feel little.
Yeah. And I love that you bring it back to the episode where we talked about what wants to happen again, right? That maybe it's just one, it's one little choice that seems little, but it's like, well, what would happen if I just ate this today, right? It doesn't even have to start with the job. It could start with, well, what if I did take a 5-minute walk, even though my mind is telling me you don't have enough time to take a walk. You don't have enough time to do that.
Yeah, it could be as simple as following a curiosity, taking a new class, listening to a new talk, having lunch with a new person, or maybe saying no to having lunch with a person that you normally have lunch with, and you want to create space to see, what else might want to happen. So I think maybe this is a more succinct way to put it. It's shaking things up a little bit, shaking your normal routine up, whether it's doing something or stopping doing something. It's just trying something new.
And I love that because, I think the discussion that, the conversation that goes around taking chances is usually around fear, right? And I think that to say like, well, it's just shaking things up a little bit, that feels different, even though it's the same thing of, well, I'm going to take a chance and not do this, or I'm going to take a chance and I am going to do this. But for some reason, to me, it's really interesting when you said that about, oh, well, how about we just shake things up a little bit? It's like, oh, then, because I think of, well, I'm not going to take that chance because, oh, that might be really scary. Or I think of big things like, as you mentioned, quitting your job or, leaving a relationship or starting a new relationship, that those feel like where chance falls into. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that overwhelming.
It doesn't. And I think, the catastrophizing, the negative filter that we all have, and the going to the future and the worrying and the playing out the worst case scenario that we all do so very well, that gets in the way, I think, of a lot of risk-taking chances. Trying new things might be a safer way to put it, might be safer language around it.
Right.
And when we can see that negativity for what it is, thoughts that may or may not be serving us, conditioning that may or may not be serving us, well, we can see it and maybe choose to be in relationship with it in a different way, it can open up the space to make new choices, perhaps with a bit more ease. At least that's been my experience.
Yes, right. When you take that, I love the catastrophizing word, right? You take that big, scary thought that all these things, oh, what's these horrible things that are going to happen if I don't stay safe and small. And, you know, years ago, one of my teachers in Zen Buddhism, she talked about that as we get older, we tend to do smaller and smaller and smaller until we're kind of in this teeny tiny little box and we don't do anything different or new, and it's not really we're not living life anymore. We're just kind of, you know, going to the same thing, eating the same food, you know, talking to the same people, even though that's not what's lighting us up.
So those of you that are in the United States, or even if you're not, maybe you've heard about it, we are recording this a day or two after there were 2 more mass shootings, unfortunately. And so we have some issues as a culture, as a country, as a planet right now, where I would argue that we need to be taking chances in the sense of doing things differently, being in different relationship with who we want to be as a people, as a species, as a country. And so each one of us, if we can look into our own hearts and say, all right, what is my job here? What can I do? How can I be part of the solution? And
Yeah.
maybe that's even being a little bit different with your own family, being more loving, compassionate, forgiving, taking a leadership role in a different way, whatever that is for you. Each of us has a different piece. But if we don't start doing things differently and taking different chances, we're going to keep getting what we've always gotten. And when I look around at my country and my planet, I really want us to take a course correction. And so that, for me, is what motivates a lot of my risk taking, chance taking, whatever language you want to put around it. Because if we want different results, we have to show up differently.
Yes. And I think that, you know, it's so true. If we want things to be different, you've mentioned this before, is that getting out of our comfort zone, right? That's the getting different, is like that smaller and smaller is well, it feels safe and secure, and that's not always, safety isn't always the best choice, you know, in terms of, oh, well, this feels safe because it's what I've always been doing. And I've had clients who are like, but I'm so used to doing these things that are unhealthy for me. It feels safe. And then, you know, it's kind of like, but that's actually not safe for you. It's not safe for your health. So that getting out of the comfort zone can be so much bigger than just our health, but it can shift these little trim tabs of how do we shift the world. Sometimes those small changes of, you know, taking risks, getting out of our comfort zone can make big ripple effects in the world.
That's right. That's right. It's bigger than us because everything's interconnected, right? The size of the cloth is enormous. We're all connected. And so every time one of us awakens even a micron and decides to show up differently, it's all different because you decided to show up differently. So that's, I think, the exciting piece of this, is that anything's possible. If we all decided to shift today, right now, it could all be different. It's possible. It's perhaps unlikely, but it's possible.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I love that idea of what if we all just, what if we all just, you know, for today said, okay, I'm going to do one thing that is out of the comfort zone of normal, you know, even if it's that, you know, like you said, I love that. I usually have lunch with this person. What if I walked over and had lunch with that person, or had lunch by myself, or had something different? What if you got a different thing for lunch?
Right. Start super tiny. Go have lunch with a tree, you know?
I love that. And I love that you point out that, you know, it is so much bigger than, you know, we talk a lot about the vibrant, wild, and free for each person that we want them to have this freedom in their life, this vibrancy in your life. And it's, you know, in some ways it's because we want the planet to have that. We want our country to have that. It's, we both believe, I think, from based on what we've talked about over so much over the years, is that we both believe that these things that we're doing, they have a bigger impact than what we can see.
Thank you. They have a bigger impact than what we can see. Most definitely. Most definitely. So I want to encourage anyone who's watching or listening to press the pause button, create some time today while this is kind of fresh in your mind, get present with yourself, and just see, just look at, being willing to look without judgment. What are the patterns that you've laid down? Where in your life, big or maybe super tiny, are you being called to maybe take a chance and come up with one action step that you can take? And it can be saying no to something if that feels safer for you than saying yes to something. And just seeing and continuing to check in with yourself, check in with your body, check in with your intentions in the world and how you're showing up, and just see, and just go moment by moment and see how it feels and go from there.
Right. That's the piece that I feel like is really important, is that moment by moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mindfulness piece that we're bringing to it. It's not just like, go do everything different and, you know, freak yourself out. Like, it doesn't have to be that. It can be breathing, checking in. How does your body feel? I love that you mentioned that. I'm doing this thing. Okay. I'm noticing that there's this knot in my throat as I do this. I'm noticing that my chest is tighter. Okay. And I'm breathing. Like, it doesn't mean don't do it. It just means you notice it. And you, as you're with yourself, as you're present with yourself, then you can still, like, you can show up for yourself doing these really hard things.
Mm-hmm. And if you're super busy, I know so many people are super, super busy and you have a lot of responsibilities. The chance might be, and this is one thing I did at a time of my life when I was really overextended, is I put up a sign. I like visual reminders, and it said, protect your time. And you know, the tendency is
I
to
love
fill
that.
all the spaces. Somebody asks you to go to lunch. Somebody asks you to go to this thing. You look at your schedule. Oh, I can do it. I don't have anything scheduled right then. But maybe you don't want to do it. Maybe it's not the best thing for you to do it. So if you're super busy, a risk taking might be to, you know, just
I know.
lock stuff off. Say no.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Protect your time. Because that is a big stepping out of the comfort zone for people, right? Of saying no to this, or no, you know, no to things that come up, and allowing time and space for ourselves.
Right. And being in the stillness might be risk taking.
I love that idea of being in stillness as a risk. You know, it's just, and I was listening to something, actually it was just today, about how stillness is how to cultivate this kind of divine feminine piece, that's that being of where we come from. And I think it's why we've talked about in the past, why we feel like retreats are so important. And it's part of why we want to offer a retreat for people to come, is to be in stillness and to have that time protected for yourself, and not, you know, to fill it with just another thing.
Right. Right. And it may feel like a risk to commit to this week with people you don't know in a place that you don't know. Just like it was a risk for me to step up and do it for the first time last year. You know, that it wasn't totally without any fear coming up or concern coming up, but the yes was bigger than the no.
Yeah.
And so I trusted that. And so if you are considering coming and playing with us, sit with it and see. And if the yes is bigger than the no, it doesn't mean that there has to be zero concerns, but maybe it's something that's right for you and you want to say yes to. Shake things up a little bit.
Shake things up. And I know my experience was when Erin, you know, and I started talking about this possibility of offering a retreat, it was you know, in my body, the yes was very big because it was like, oh, that sounds like so much fun. Like, doesn't that sound great? And it's later that the mind comes in and wants to go like, rah, 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 like, oh, well, you can't take a week, and you know, here's all the problems. And really, my experience is that initial response is the one to listen to. That like first, like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. That's the one that, you know, in my experience has been, that's the truth. That's like the truth chord to follow instead of the rational, logical brain that wants everything to be perfectly planned.
Right, right. And it doesn't mean that there's not going to be that little bit of chatter in the background, but you
Oh,
know,
or a lot.
or a lot, or a lot, but anything new that's going to be the case. And so you have to decide, is this something I want to move forward with? Is this going to move me forward in the plot that I'm forwarding in my own life and the life and the country and the planet that I want to see? And if yes, then maybe it's a chance worth taking.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about, you know, how transformational in terms of, you know, shaking things up, retreats can be, you know, going back to the idea of our retreat, that um, you really will come out the other side a different person. And that is, you know, the term that Martha Beck uses, both of us were trained with Martha Beck, is scare-sighted, right? Because it is fear-inducing, but it's like, where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? How do you want I love that you keep saying, like, how do you want the world to be? And, you know, if you want peace in the world, then starting within is the most powerful place to begin.
Amen, sister. I think that is probably a beautiful place to wrap up.
Yes, yes. So, as you know, we have a vibrant, wild, and free retreat in beautiful Mexico at Haramara, and we would love for you to join us. And we invite you to start small with taking some chances or shifting out of your comfort zone just today. Begin today. And let us know. We'd love to know how you, what you experience as you go through that.
Definitely. So we're both cheering you on and wishing you well, and we will see you next time. Have fun cultivating vibrancy and wildness and freedom.
Yay. Bye.